Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI Interconnect Podcast. I'm your host, Laurent. On this show, we talk with founders and operators who are building real companies, solving real problems, and figuring things out in the trenches. AI Interconnect is where technology, systems, and execution meet the people actually doing the work behind the scenes. Today, I'm joined by Aran Ploshansky, founder and CEO of Heal Your Roots Systems. And Heal Your Roots System builds operational and technology infrastructure that helps wellness and therapy-based businesses run more efficiently and grow sustainably. Aran, thank you for being here. Very, very happy to have you on the show.
Thrilled to be here. Really excited. This is my first time doing a live video podcast. So this is very exciting. Live is in like very minimal editing on the video. I did one time with audio. So this is very exciting. So we're going to shake out some of the nerves early on and hopefully I get into a flow. It's really great to be here.
Thanks. Great to have you, and you're already on the flow. Let's start with your background, so listeners understand the path that led you here. You clearly think in system, not just ideas, and that usually comes from being close to the work early on. Aran, how did your background and early hands-on experience led you to build Hill of Systems?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've always been in the trenches. I started off as an operations manager early on in retail. I worked as a SaaS consultant. I worked as a commercial real estate salesperson for 4 years. And then my wife and I started building her solo group practice into a group practice. This was like when COVID hit, everything went totally remote. We expanded into a group practice and we wanted to build in the systems to not have to do as much busy work, right? It really was just trying to fix my own problems. It's always really been just, how do I fix my own problems? How do I automate the system so I don't have to do it myself? How do I automate so I don't have to hire somebody? And in the path to automate the business so that we can continue growing it, we identified a bunch of issues along the way that are just busy work, and just like a huge busy work tax on the work that needed to be done. And instead of doing the building, instead we just had to do admin or marketing coordination or generating graphics for marketing, resizing things, just death by 1,000 cuts. And we grew the practice over 4 years. We grew it. We moved the state, we expanded to other states, and we continued having more and more admin work. The more things grew, the more our life went on and had more responsibilities. Like I said, we moved across the country. We had a baby, so we had more responsibilities and less time to do busy work. But there's always more work to do. I learned that early on in my career, that there's always more work to do. You're not going to run out of the work to do. So it's, how can you eliminate, automate, delegate? That's some Tim Ferriss stuff I read over the years. Then kind of was reading a lot of different things. And out of our own need, we eventually created Heal Your Roots Systems, which was the productized version of the automations and the systems that I have been building for my own businesses, own projects, own experiments. It was just experience the problem myself. And because of my background in Six Sigma certification training, project management, and just creating so many SOPs over the years for different team members and VAs, and then needing to manage people. So it was a lot of feeling it firsthand, experiencing it, then trying to solve the problem for myself and realizing other people have this problem and making it available to others.
I love it. This is a good beginning. You are operating in a space where many people talk about wellness, but never talk about the operational backbone behind it. When you explain Heal Your Roots System to someone outside the wellness or therapy world, how do you describe what you actually do and who you help?
That's a great question because over the last 90 days, the company's suite of tools has really evolved. So while we started off with solving problems for ourselves in Heal Your Roots Wellness, which is a mental health practice, we also have a podcast, the Heal Your Roots podcast, and we needed to do content creation. And we have a course, Deeper Connecting, that's a couples program. And that's for education. And we realized that during that time, we were working on creating marketing content for all our tools. And we created HYR Studio, which is our marketing automation platform. So what Heal Your Roots Systems, HYR system does is not help specifically the mental health practice, but what we do is we eliminate and automate busy work in general. We started off in healthcare because that's where we were, but that was just the first tool that we were building. We just launched HYR Studio in the middle of January, and that really solves the problem for any business that has a need for marketing or content creation. So if you have to create videos or captions or images from this podcast that we're doing, it's any marketer, professional, knowledge worker, really what we're there to do. What my goal for the past, I'd say 20 years since reading Think and Grow Rich was to build the tools that help people who help people. The people that leverage their knowledge, relationships, and expertise to provide asymmetrical benefit and value to other people. We're building those tools that help those people do less busy work and focus on the things they do best.
Okay, awesome. And which type of organization gets the most value from your work today?
So right now, I'd say the organizations that get the most value out of our tools are the small business operators, the founders, the teams of three to four people or 1 to 2 people that want to be able to do more work and want to be able to provide more value, but not necessarily take on the administrative work that goes on with doing more volume or become a manager who then just becomes the managing people instead of doing the work. So we're there to empower the people that want to do the work of 10 people's worth of work, but with one person and the right set of tools. Really ambitious people that don't want to be held back by lack of resources, really.
Very cool. And what part of your offering create the most leverage for your clients?
Oh, I think right now, by far, it would be HYR Studio, HYR Studio. It is creating like 30 pieces of content in 2 minutes worth of work. You go grab a coffee, you press 4 clicks of buttons, go grab a coffee, you come back, everything's done. So instead of having to hire people or spend tons of time, it has helped me create right now about like 800 pieces of content in like 2 days, quality, top-notch content. So it's just really huge piece of leverage. It's really expanded our reach of being able to help a broader market because originally HYR Systems, HYR Systems was focused on helping strictly the mental health industry because our key tool that we have been building for several months is for the mental health operating system. But that's just such a smaller group of people where there's just so many creators, founders, educators, knowledge workers that need to convey what's in their head in a visual way without spending a ton of time just messing around with image editors.
I know it's for me also.
Yeah.
What
Creators.
Yeah, exactly. What truly differentiates your approach from typical consultant or software tools?
Yeah, so the cool thing about what we have been doing and the value proposition that differentiates us is that we're not approaching it as having a tool that just makes the work faster or assist the person in doing it. It's really going back to a first principles approach of reviewing what are we trying to accomplish, what are the inputs, what are the outputs, what are the obstacles. And we're not just giving you a tool to go through that process. It's actually an AI agent swarm of a bunch of different automations that are working sometimes in sequence, sometimes in parallel, constantly being optimized to refine for speed so that you're essentially, the way I think about it is like you give it the input like you would with a chat GPT, but instead of copy pasting back and forth like you would with a chat GPT between this and then like your documentation and then your social coordination, it just goes through all the pieces by its own with individualized prompts that are just customized very specifically for your use case and are fed into it. So it's like having, I think of it as like a curtain. You pull behind the curtain and you see your own AI swarm of a creator and a transcriber and somebody that adds your brand colors. And it's really more of having access to a team of AI agents working in coordination in your behalf, not just another tool for you to use and then just do more busy work of copy pasting between different platforms. It's a 10x, 100x differentiator value proposition as far as getting your marketing or administrative work just done. You didn't delegate it to somebody with SOPs. You didn't automate it between different platforms. We rebuilt it from the ground up to take native AI tools to just go through it.
I love it. Okay. From what I see across different industries, mission driven companies often hit complexity faster than they expect. And right now, what feels like the hardest part of running or scaling Heal Your system or your software?
Yeah, it's it's a good point, right? Because there's a lot of challenges, especially when you're trying to do something new. It's really getting people to hear you out and open their mind to doing things a different way than they've always done, because there's a big impact to your ego about, well, but that means I've been doing things the wrong way. I remember having this moment. It's like the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. I remember having this unlock last year when I started using tools like Replit and like connecting it with working between Replit and Google AI Studio and V0 and Gemini and integrating all these things where I did the work in 1 month that I had paid like a lot of people over the past prior years to do what amounted to a fraction of that work, or at least not the work, but the output, a fraction of the output comparatively between just a bunch of tokens. And that was a big, like, how much money was wasted if I had just waited until I had done it when better tools came out. And that was like a big ego thing to kind of go through and get to that other side and be like, okay, no, that was just a stepping stone of learning through the process of what to do. And I find that a lot of people are too busy doing the thing they're busy doing to hear of a better way of getting that thing done. And then you have to spend a lot of time just finding ways to make it easier and faster for people to unlock that aha moment, that value proposition, while people have a much shorter attention span at the same time, and it's getting shorter and shorter. So you're competing with trying to make as big of a value proposition in as short of a time, while it's a complex thing. It's like, well, yes, the car is different than the horse, but it has other value propositions. You don't have to feed the car. I mean, you do, you got to give it gas, but it's different, right? Like, so it takes time to convince people why should you install electricity in the house so that you can eventually get a washing machine? But these things stack and layer. And if you don't take the time to digitize your business, you can't apply AI to it. You can't apply AI to shuffling paper without having it somehow connect. So it's a lot of just changing mindsets, both your own and other people's.
Okay, right. And where do you feel the most friction in the business today?
Where do I find the most friction? So as a founder, it's a lot of building and continuing to constantly build, and also doing all these other pieces that you need to do as you have as a growing company of all those functions. And you have to balance then continuing communicating the vision so the people that are working on that are not you can continue in that vision while also proceeding with all of those things, while also getting a lot of pushback, going back to the previous point, from people where there are going to be hiccups along the way because you're trying new things and you're doing new things and you're identifying new edge cases. And there can be a lot of negative pushback that's, okay, let's focus on fixing the problem, moving forward, rather than just holding back because of, well, something could go bad. There's that balance between how much information do you need to have to proceed while also minimizing the downside.
All
I hope
right.
that answered your question.
Yeah, of course. But I always ask the same questions. What problem keeps resurfacing even as you improve the system?
Yeah. There's way more. There's like, it goes back to the original thing. There's always more work. There's always more work to be done. So this system can always get enhanced and evolve to provide more coverage of more of those edge cases. And the more users you have, the more edge cases you find, which then come up more frequently, which then makes it more of an urgent situation. So, and then it goes back to just constantly ship. I think it goes back to continuing building, right? Like it's not enough to just, and I think nowadays it's more than ever where it's not enough to just build something and then walk away and then focus on just marketing. Like you built it, you spent 6 months, you built it, and now you go marketing. That's not enough because the rate of competition and the barrier to entry keeps lowering, which makes it a lot easier to just spin out something that's nothing, but it's becomes harder and harder to do something that's of higher caliber, higher value when there is so much noise out there, right? Because there is so much noise out there. There is more competing for our attention. Therefore, we have less attention span. And because of that, you have to continue making a better and better value proposition so that you don't have to spend the time marketing. You can just create and build, but there is so much noise out there that you do have to wait to find a way to differentiate yourself. And that's continue finding those edge cases, but not just how do you make it incrementally better? How do you make it X better? How do you make it a X better? How do you change it in a way that the game can't be played the same way as before, right? So when you're doing that, you oftentimes have to break it all down to the beginning and rebuild it from the ground up. Otherwise, you're duct taping old things and you're building on technical debt. And then it goes back to the whole ego piece of like, well, I guess that means that I was wrong before. If I'm now agreeing, if I'm admitting that I have to change it, that what I did before was not good enough compared to what I know now. So I think it always kind of it reminds me actually, there's the idea, I've been fiddling with this idea of like, you always, sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes I feel like you're walking in circles. And I mentioned before, my wife is a therapist. We do a lot of, talking through, philosophizing, thinking about this stuff. And I remember seeing from Sahil Bloom a post one day, how you're going in circles and you're dealing with the same obstacles, the same issues. And talking to my therapist's wife, she's informed me that most issues don't go away. They're just repeated in different forms through life. And going back to the post from Sahil Bloom, I was thinking about, well, like, it's not a circle, it's a spiral, right? And it's a spiral, it's an ascending spiral going up. So you're repeating the same patterns in different ways, and hopefully you're ascending while doing that. And hopefully your circles of concern and influence are also expanding while you're doing that. And then I was reading Ray Dalio's Principles, and he has this similar concept where you're going through the process of like identifying an issue, then you explore it, you work towards it, and you continue going through these 5 cycles of the spiral. But his spiral goes sideways. So it's a bunch of the same things.
Yeah.
Resurfacing in a bunch of different ways constantly over and over again, and just working through those. And I found that the best way for me to continue growing and evolving as a person is to just apply systems. We are ultimately what we do repeatedly. So I just continue to build systems and to make it easier to have habits that will increase my chance of accomplishing what I'm trying to accomplish. That's the whole
Very
scope
right.
of it, of how it kind of pulls it all together.
Yes, I love it. Every industry has its blind spots, especially from the outside. From your vantage point inside wellness and therapy operations, what shifts matter most right now, but it's still underappreciated?
Yeah. So it is very much underappreciated. And I think there's a big disconnect between how treat the providers, the clinicians, to make sure that the system is there to sustain it. So like right now, how it's set up, it's very much in we train people to do something really well, right? They go to school for years and they become specialized and they do it on repeat for 38 hours, 35 hours a week until retirement, essentially, right? With a 2-week break. And when you're doing therapy for 38 hours a week, I don't know from firsthand experience, only through secondhand as a spouse and running a company full of clinicians, it's very quick recipe for burning them out and then have them leave the industry to go do something else, at which point they're not there to provide that service, right? They're just not going to, we're burning out a non-renewable resource, which is in this situation, people that can provide this labor, people that are qualified to do that. And then they also get cut down by 1,000 cuts with administrative burdens, tax costs, everything that goes along with that. So we need to find ways to like make it a little bit more balanced. And that's what we were striving to do with Heal Your Roots Wellness, of having more of a balanced work. So they don't have to do as many hours, but they can use they can use different tools to do work that they may have not necessarily been trained for many years to do, like marketing stuff or something like that, right? So they're very quickly getting burned out without it being a sustainable approach. And I think that that's something that hasn't been explored a lot. And that's why we started with creating these different systems to remove as many of those additional burdens that allow them to focus on the work they do best and have some flexibility to not have to do it 38 hours a week every week, because that's the very specific thing they were trained for. So that's introducing tools that are more accessible to more people, that you don't have to be. That's like my background. When I started working with the therapy practice, I had background with lots of tools, like no code tools, and the ability to automate a lot of things that gave us the ability and the capacity to expand. And many other people in that industry don't have those set of tools, right? So it's making those tools accessible so they don't have to get burned out as much. And that's kind of, it goes back to what I've been doing since I read Think and Grow Rich many years ago, is building the tools that help people, and wanted to help them so that they can focus on what they do best. It's just a lot of so to go back to the kind of, I'll wrap it up. There's a lot of administrative overhead burden associated with the field, where you then have to outsource it and kill your margins. And then it just leads to burnout with very little upside, right? So it's not professionally rewarding. It's not financially rewarding. They're just giving of themselves, their mental space, there's this saying that their cup, how full is their cup? It's very draining, and people don't take that into consideration. With, if we don't fix it, we're not going to have these people there to support us when we need it most.
That's true. That's true. What signal do you uh, personally pay attention to when making decisions?
Ooh, that's tough. There's so many. What signal
Yeah,
do I pay attention to when making decisions? I want to make sure that I'm thinking of what I know, what I don't know, and what I don't know, I don't know. And I think of it like I used to play a lot of video games growing up, and I think about it like how much of the map can I see, right? Like how much of the map is completely blacked out, how much of it is in like in the they call it like the fog of war, the haze that you can't see off in the distance. And I just want to make sure I see far ahead enough that I'm not driving into a wall or off a cliff. I think I heard Jeff Bezos talk about this, if whether it's a one-way door or a two-way door. And then, is this can I come back from this or not? And what is the upside, the asymmetric max versus the negative downside, and then the opportunity cost. And I think of it, it's more of an equation where you're combining these multiple factors together to give you like a weighted number. And I would say like that weighted number in my head, like that's that signal that I would use. That's a signal that I use as kind of like my intuitive equation in my head when I kind of look at decisions and what I'm doing and how to proceed with it.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. And what is widely misunderstood about running a serious wellness business?
Hmm. What's misunderstood about running a wellness business? That's that's a good question. It's a lot of, I think it depends on if what role in the business it's asked about, right? So like my wife and I run the therapy practice together. We have put that on the back burner to really focus on our software company. So it's really more of a software focus for us. And that's one of the reasons we put the therapy practice on the back burner and really are focusing on the software piece to have less of that confusion about who we are there to help, because we do have like several projects that we've been doing and it creates confusion. So it's more about having like that brand identity. So like in the therapy practice, my wife is a therapist and I'm like the business marketing guy. So it's like, what are the roles and things, and not the roles, like how do those people impact the company and the people they provide. And I think like the business growth and like the finance, the marketing pieces of it, I think are kind of dismissed from the general public, as it's not the value proposition. It's all that administrative back work that goes into it, where then you hear about the service side of it and it's more focused on just that portion, where without all the other pieces of it, none of it would be possible. Then it becomes a nonprofit and it becomes a non-viable operation. That's where the systems really, right? Like systems are there for success of anything, right? For it, those systems can either lead to success or they can lead to failure. They will just propagate something. And in healthcare, I think the systems that go behind it are often just not neglected, but they're almost villainized even, or like dismissed as a necessary evil, rather than the structure that actually allows it to go do what it does best, right? It's the fundamentals. So that's why a lot of what we've been doing over the last like 90 days is shifting from what we do is not wellness. We do systems that free you up from busy work. And it's not just for mental health. It's not just for healthcare. It's for anybody that's bogged down with busy work. And that's what HYR System does, right? We build tools that free you up from busy work. We've been working, like I said, on HYR Flow Systems. That is that mental health operating system that does the A to Z that we identified of all that busy work, that then cuts it down. And over the last 90 days, as we've identified and built, HYR Studio came out, like I said, out of an internal need. It was an internal tool that I built for us for our go-to-market approach. And then I realized like right before Chris that this tool could help so many other people. And then just pivoted for like the next 30 days to productize and get it out to market. And it's really more about that, like helping with that fundamental foundational layer of like the things that need to get done to allow people to go succeed. Because there's just so much of it. It just cuts out. It's just a death by a thousand cuts for so many operators just trying to like set a full day or two a week just for admin work. There goes like 40% of your time.
That's right. That's right. No, you did a good move. You are building for the long term, which always require focus and trade-off. Looking ahead 12 to 18 months, what does success realistically look like for HYR Root or the software company?
Yeah. So success over the next 12, 18 months is our software saving business operators hundreds for each operator, hundreds of hours a month, if not a week, in full-time employee labor that has just been automated with AI agent swarms, where that entire need for an entire person to do busy work, and instead of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of founders, creators, business operators, millions even using our AI agent swarms to eliminate 80%, 90% of busy work and instead focus on strategy, creative, relationships, providing insight and knowledge, and not just clicking buttons, right? Like with all the AI tools out there, it's now more important than ever to have people that know how to do and how to connect and how to share and how to explain things to then be able to go do that. And then I can't even imagine what these creative people, these doers, these builders could do with double their time or double their resources because they didn't have to spend a whole bunch of it on busy admin work. Hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of hours of busy work saved. Just I'm really excited about like the unlock that it will do. It's like one of the big things that changed in like, human evolution was when they started using fire to cook meat, they had to chew for less time. So they got so much time back into their day to do the next thing. Or like the agricultural change, they then were able to able to reallocate your time, your energy to something else. It's being able, I think it's being able, I think what to kind of dilute it, it's being able to save energy on wasted energy that could be done with something that is more efficient and have excess energy left over to use for something else, right? I think like that's ultimately the big unlock for humanity is let's do something better, save a whole bunch of resources that we've been previously wasting to do the exact same thing, and then use these resources to do something else, whether it's rest or do more productive stuff. I think that's kind of what I'm really excited about. And that's like when I show this new tool to people, they're like, wait, this only took 10 minutes. This took way more time before. I have so much time to go do other things now.
That's great. I love it. Aran, thank you so much for joining. Strong insight into your journey, your industry, and the work you're doing at HYR Roots and the software company. Um, you have great things in front of you. Thank you so much for taking the time, Aran.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This is a great conversation. I appreciate it.
I love the conversation. And where do people can learn about you and your work? Where can they reach you?
Yeah. So HYRsystems.com, Higher Systems, you can see a portfolio of our suite of tools. You can also check out my personal website at ploshansky.com, where you can learn more about our whole scope of work between all our different projects, or connect with me on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We will reconnect and see your progress and growth. Definitely. Thank you, Aran.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody.
And that's it for today's episode of AI Interconnect. And if you enjoy it, share it with someone who is building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you. Bye bye, Aran.